Linda sat quietly in the back seat of the car, her eyes following the blur of trees rushing past the window. It had been years since she had gone on a family trip, and this one felt different from the start. Her son Daniel had planned everything: the route, the cabin by the lake, even the meals they would cook together. He wanted to spend quality time as a family again, something they hadn't done since his father, Michael, passed away 5 years earlier. Linda wasn't sure how she felt about it at first. Part of her still found it hard to revisit those happy memories. But Daniel had a way of convincing her with his warm smile and persistent care. The road stretched endlessly before them, winding through green hills and open meadows. Daniel was at the wheel, focused yet relaxed, humming softly to a song on the radio. His fiancée, Emma, sat beside him, pointing out the little cottages and rivers along the way. Linda couldn't help but smile at how naturally they fit together. Emma was cheerful and kind, the sort of person who brought light into a room without even trying. It made Linda happy to see her son with someone like that. "Mom, are you comfortable back there?" Daniel asked, glancing into the rearview mirror. "I'm fine, sweetheart," Linda replied with a soft smile. "It's been a while since I've done a trip like this. Feels good." Emma turned around, her brown eyes bright. "Wait until we get to the cabin, Linda. You'll love it. It's right next to the lake." Linda's eyes softened. A lake cabin. That brings back memories. Those words lingered in her mind. Years ago, she and Michael had taken Daniel on summer trips to a similar lakeside cabin. The laughter, the smell of grilled corn, the sound of frogs croaking at night, those days felt like they belonged to another lifetime. She remembered Daniel's tiny hands clutching a fishing rod too big for him, and Michael kneeling beside him, teaching him how to cast a line. Those moments had faded into the background of her busy, lonely years. But now, heading toward another lake, they resurfaced, fresh and vivid, when they finally arrived. The cabin appeared like a painting come to life, a wooden home with a wide porch surrounded by tall pine trees. The lake shimmered under the afternoon sun, calm and silver blue. Birds called from somewhere in the woods, and a cool breeze carried the scent of pine and water. Linda stepped out of the car and took a deep breath. The air felt pure, almost healing. Daniel carried the bags inside while Emma started unpacking snacks in the small kitchen. "This place is perfect," Emma said, opening the curtains to let sunlight stream in. "We even have a fire pit outside." Linda walked slowly through the cabin, touching the wooden walls and smiling at the creaky floorboards. It reminded her so much of the cabin she and Michael had once stayed in. She felt a mix of nostalgia and warmth. It wasn't just a trip, it was like stepping back into the best parts of her past. That evening, they gathered outside by the fire pit. The lake reflected the orange glow of the setting sun, and the smell of roasted marshmallows filled the air. Daniel played a few notes on his guitar, the same one Michael used to play. The sound was gentle, comforting, like a voice from another time. "You still remember those songs?" Linda said softly, her voice trembling just a little. Daniel nodded. "Dad taught me well. I practiced them a lot after he passed. Made me feel close to him." For a moment, no one spoke. The fire crackled softly, filling the silence. Linda felt the old ache in her chest, but it was different this time. Not painful, just heavy with love and memories. Daniel glanced at her, hesitating. "Actually, Mom, I've got something for you." Linda blinked, surprised. "For me? What's this about?" He smiled nervously. "You'll see." He reached behind his chair and pulled out a small box made of polished wood. It looked handmade, smooth, and beautiful. He handed it to her carefully. Linda looked at him, puzzled but touched. Slowly, she opened the lid. Inside lay a silver locket, simple but elegant. 2 hearts were engraved on the front, intertwined with the letters L and M. Linda gasped softly. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. "Oh, Daniel, how did you?" "I had it made," he said quietly. "I remembered Dad once mentioned he wanted to get you something like this. He said he never got the chance. So I thought maybe I could." Linda's eyes filled with tears. The memories of her late husband came flooding back. The laughter, the small surprises, the way he used to hold her hand when words weren't enough. She traced the engraved letters with her finger, her heart swelling with love and sorrow. Emma smiled softly. He's been working on this for months, Linda. He wanted it to be perfect. Linda looked up at her son, her voice shaking. It is perfect. It's the most thoughtful gift anyone's ever given me. Daniel reached over and squeezed her hand. You deserve it, Mom. Everything I am today, it's because of you. The flames flickered across their faces, and for a moment everything felt still. The world outside the circle of firelight faded. It was just them, a mother and son bound by love and shared memories. Linda looked at Daniel, her heart full. Your father would be proud of you, she said, smiling through her tears. I hope so, Daniel whispered. He taught me what love looks like. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Linda stayed awake, sitting by the window with the locket in her hand. She opened it carefully, and inside were two small pictures, one of her and Michael when they were young, laughing on a beach, and another of Daniel as a little boy with his first fishing rod. She didn't even remember giving him that photo. But he had kept it all these years. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she held the locket close to her heart. The pain she had carried for so long began to soften, replaced by something warm and peaceful. She realized that her son had given her more than a gift. He had given her a piece of her past, a reminder that love never truly disappears. It changes, it moves, but it stays alive in the people we raise, in the memories we keep, and in the hearts that never forget. As the moonlight spilled into the room, Linda whispered to herself, "Thank you, my boy." She felt calm for the first time in years, calm and deeply loved. The lake outside shimmered under the stars, and she knew this trip was only the beginning of something beautiful, a new chapter, built on love that would never fade. And that night, she fell asleep with the locket in her hands, dreaming not of the past she had lost, but of the love that had found its way back to her again the next morning. Sunlight streamed softly through the cabin window, filling the room with a warm golden glow. Linda woke up to the gentle sound of birds outside and the faint aroma of coffee drifting from the kitchen. For a moment she stayed still, her fingers brushing over the silver locket resting on her chest. It wasn't just jewelry, it was a piece of her heart restored. She smiled faintly, remembering Daniel's expression when he had handed it to her. His eyes had that same kindness Michael once had, that same quiet strength. Pushing herself up, she wrapped a cardigan around her shoulders and walked out to the porch. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of pine and morning dew. The lake shimmered like glass, reflecting the pale blue of the sky. She saw Daniel standing by the water, skipping stones across the surface. For a brief moment, she was transported back to when he was 8 years old, laughing every time a pebble bounced twice. The sight made her heart ache in the sweetest way. Couldn't sleep either. Daniel called without turning around. Linda smiled as she joined him by the lake. "Oh, I've slept well enough. Just woke up early. The air here feels too good to waste on sleep." Daniel grinned, tossing another stone. "You always said that when we used to come up north for summer trips?" Linda laughed softly. "You remember everything, don't you?" "Only the good parts," he said, glancing at her with a boyish smile. For a while, they stood in comfortable silence, watching the ripples fade into calm water. It was a quiet moment between mother and son, gentle, healing, filled with unspoken love. Linda felt proud of the man Daniel had become. He was thoughtful, compassionate, the kind of person who carried others' emotions carefully. They headed back to the cabin, where Emma was already setting the table for breakfast. "Good morning," she chirped, handing Linda a steaming mug of coffee. "Hope you slept well." "I did, thank you," Linda replied warmly. "You make a perfect cup of coffee," Emma smiled. "I had to learn. Daniel can't survive without it." Linda chuckled. Neither could his father. They ate together on the porch, watching the sunlight dance on the water. It felt peaceful, like time had slowed down just for them. But beneath that calm, Linda sensed something different about Daniel. He seemed deep in thought, his gaze distant at times. She noticed him checking his phone once, hesitating before putting it away. After breakfast, Emma suggested exploring the hiking trail nearby. Linda agreed, though her knees protested a little at the idea. They walked slowly through the pine forest, the air cool and fresh, sunlight filtering through the leaves. Birds chirped above them, and the ground was soft with fallen needles as they walked. Daniel stayed close to his mother, occasionally helping her over uneven roots. "You've still got a good pace, Mom," he teased. Linda smiled. "Don't flatter me too much. I'm not 20 anymore." He laughed, but then his voice softened. "You look great, Mom. You've always been strong." That small comment touched her deeply. It wasn't about vanity, it was the way he said it, with genuine admiration. It reminded her that even though she sometimes felt invisible in her age, her son still saw her as someone full of life and grace. After an hour, they reached a scenic spot overlooking the lake from above. The view was breathtaking. The water sparkled like silver glass, surrounded by endless trees. They sat on a large rock, catching their breath. Emma took pictures while Daniel handed Linda a bottle of water. "This is beautiful," Linda murmured. "I haven't felt this peaceful in years." Daniel hesitated before speaking. "That's actually why I brought you here." She turned to him, curious. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath. "I know you've been carrying a lot since Dad passed. You stopped painting, stopped traveling, stopped doing things for yourself. I just wanted to remind you that life isn't over, Mom. You still have so much ahead of you." Linda blinked back tears. "Daniel," he continued, his voice firm but full of love, "you always put me first. Now it's time you put yourself first. This trip says for you." For a moment, Linda couldn't speak. Her throat tightened, and her eyes glistened. No one had ever said something like that to her before. She had spent years being the caretaker, the one holding things together, forgetting what it meant to live for herself. Emma joined them, smiling gently. "He's right, Linda. You deserve happiness, your own kind of happiness." Linda looked at them both, her heart swelling with pride and emotion. "You too," she whispered. "You have no idea what this means to me." The rest of the hike felt lighter. Linda laughed more, shared old stories, even sang softly as they walked back. It was as if a part of her that had been asleep had finally woken up. That evening, after dinner, they sat by the fire again. Emma brought out marshmallows, and Daniel tuned his guitar once more. The flames cast a warm glow on their faces as the night deepened around them. Daniel strummed softly, humming a familiar tune. Linda recognized "It was a song Michael used to play on their anniversary. She felt her chest tighten with emotion, but smiled through it. "Still remember it?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "Dad played it every year. I figured it was time to keep the tradition going." The simple gesture filled the air with warmth. It wasn't just music hit, it was connection, legacy, love, passed from one generation to another. Linda felt tears welling again, but they were happy tears this time. When the song ended, Daniel turned to her and said, "Mom, tomorrow morning I want to take you somewhere special. It's a surprise." She raised an eyebrow, half curious, half amused. "Another surprise." "You've already given me too much." "Trust me," he said, smiling. "You'll understand when we get there." That night, as Linda lay in bed, she couldn't stop thinking about his words. "You still have so much ahead of you." It echoed in her mind like a promise. She had spent so many years thinking her best days were behind her that her purpose was to simply keep going for others. But now, for the first time in a long while, she wondered if it was possible to rediscover herself, to find joy, to create, to live without guilt. She glanced at the locket resting on the bedside table, its silver surface glinting in the moonlight. She picked it up, opened it, and smiled at the two pictures inside Michael and Daniel, her past and her present side by side. Quietly, she whispered, "Maybe it's time to start again." The cabin was silent except for the faint rustle of the wind outside. The lake shimmered in the moonlight, calm and endless, like a reflection of her heart finally finding peace. And as she drifted to sleep, Linda didn't feel alone anymore. She felt surrounded by love, both old and new, ready for whatever the next day would bring. Little did she know, Daniel's surprise would change not only her day, but her entire outlook on life. Morning came softly. with the scent of pine and the golden light of dawn spilling through the window. Linda woke to the sound of gentle tapping on her door. "Mom, you up?" Daniel's voice came through, cheerful yet calm. She smiled and called back, "Give me 5 minutes." As she dressed, she caught her reflection in the small cabin mirror. Her silver hair framed her face. Her eyes still held warmth and life. She felt different today, lighter somehow. Maybe it was the peace of the lake. Or maybe the love that had filled the past 2 days. When she stepped outside, Daniel was waiting by the car with 2 cups of coffee. The air was cool and fresh, and the fog still clung to the water. "Ready for your surprise?" he asked, grinning. "I'm starting to get nervous about these surprises," Linda teased, taking the cup from him. "Should I be worried?" He laughed. "Not at all. Just trust me." They drove for nearly an hour through winding mountain roads lined with tall evergreens. Linda watched the scenery pass by, her curiosity growing. Every turn seemed to reveal another breathtaking view: rolling hills, sparkling streams, and wide-open skies. She couldn't remember the last time she'd felt so alive. Finally, Daniel turned onto a narrow gravel path that led to a clearing overlooking the valley. There stood a small, weathered wooden building with a sign that read, "The Old Studio." Linda froze. She knew that place. It had been her art studio years ago, before life became too heavy and she'd packed everything away. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling. "How did you?" He smiled softly. "I found the old address in one of Dad's notebooks. The owner agreed to let us visit. Thought you might want to see it again." For a moment, Linda couldn't move. Memories flooded back: long afternoons spent painting under sunlight. Michael bringing her coffee while she worked. Daniel as a little boy, playing quietly in the corner with crayons while she painted. That studio had been her sanctuary once, her world of colors and dreams. Daniel opened the door gently and stepped aside. "Go on, Mom." Inside, the air smelled faintly of dust and wood, but the sunlight pouring through the tall windows made everything glow. Her easel was still there, though covered in a thin layer of time. A few old canvases leaned against the wall, faded but familiar. Linda walked slowly, touching each surface, feeling her heart twist with nostalgia and warmth. "It's like stepping back in time," she whispered. Daniel watched her quietly, his expression tender. "You used to paint almost every day, didn't you?" She nodded. "Yes, I stopped after your father passed. I told myself I didn't have the heart for it anymore. But the truth is, I was afraid of remembering too much." You took a few steps closer. "Maybe it's time to remember again. But this time, not with pain, just love." Linda turned to look at him, her eyes glistening. "You sound just like your father," she said softly. "Then I'll take that as the best compliment you could give me." Daniel replied with a grin. She laughed through her tears, then took a deep breath. "All right then. Let's see if I still remember how to do this." Daniel stepped outside for a moment and returned with something wrapped in brown paper. He placed it on a nearby table and unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a brand new set of brushes, tubes of paint, and a clean white canvas. Linda gasped. "You bought all this?" He nodded. "Emma helped me pick them out. We thought maybe you'd want to start again." Linda's throat tightened. For a long moment, she couldn't find the words. Then she smiled faintly and said, "You have no idea how much this means to me." She sat down in front of the easel, her hands trembling as she held a brush again after so many years. The weight of it felt familiar, comforting. She dabbed a bit of color onto the palette, hesitated, then let the brush glide across the canvas. The first stroke was uncertain, then another followed and another. Slowly, her hand steadied. It felt like her heart was painting to each movement, freeing a piece of herself she had buried long ago. Daniel stood behind her, watching silently, a proud smile spreading across his face. "You still have it," he said softly. Linda laughed, a warm, genuine sound. "I think I never really lost it. I just forgot it was there." They spent the next few hours together in the studio. She painted. He played soft music from his phone, the kind she used to love. The sunlight shifted across the wooden floor, and for once, time didn't matter. The world outside faded away, leaving only the sound of brushes and the quiet peace between mother and son. When she finally stopped, Linda looked at the painting of view of the lake they'd visited that morning, sunlight spilling over the calm water. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive, full of emotion, memory, and hope. "It's beautiful," Daniel said, stepping closer. "It looks like peace." She turned to him, smiling. "That's what it feels like, too." He nodded. Then my surprise worked. Linda shook her head with amusement. "You're too thoughtful for your own good." Daniel laughed. "You taught me that." They left the studio just before sunset. The sky was painted in pinks and golds, as if the world itself had joined her in rediscovering color. On the drive back, Linda stared out the window, her heart full. The day had reminded her that life didn't end with loss, it simply changed shape. And even in that change, beauty could still exist. When they returned to the cabin, Emma had prepared dinner and lit candles on the table. "How was the surprise?" she asked eagerly. Linda smiled warmly. "It was perfect. More than I ever expected." They ate together, laughing and sharing stories. After dinner, Daniel raised a glass. "To new beginnings," he said. Linda lifted hers. "And to the people who remind us we're still alive." That night, after everyone went to bed, Linda sat by the window alone, looking out at the stars. She thought about her husband, her son, and the long years between then and now. The pain had softened, replaced by gratitude. She touched the locket around her neck and whispered, "You'd be proud of him, Michael. You really would." The wind brushed softly against the window pane, as if carrying an answer. Linda smiled and leaned back, feeling peace settle deep within her. The studio, the painting, the love it all reminded her that life still had meaning. And as she drifted off to sleep, she made herself a promise. Tomorrow she would paint again. Not for anyone else, but for herself. Because sometimes the greatest gifts don't come wrapped in paper, they come from the people who see your heart, even when you've forgotten how to look at it yourself. The final morning of their trip arrived quietly, with a golden sunrise spreading across the mountains. The cabin was filled with a calm silence, the kind that follows days spent healing and remembering. Linda woke early, her heart unusually light. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the weight of sadness pressing down on her chest. She stretched, looked out the window, and smiled at the sight of the lake glowing under the morning sun. It was their last day together before heading home, and though she felt a hint of sadness, she was grateful for her son, for Emma, and for the memories they had created when she stepped into the kitchen. Daniel and Emma were already there, whispering and moving around hurriedly. "You two look suspicious," she said playfully. Emma laughed. No, just making breakfast." But Linda could tell they were hiding something. Daniel tried to keep a straight face, but failed miserably. "Just sit down, Mom. We'll bring everything to you." She obeyed, shaking her head with amusement. They set the table, beautifully fresh pancakes, fruit and coffee steaming in her favorite mug. She felt spoiled, loved in a way that filled her heart. "All right," Daniel said after breakfast, rubbing his hands together. "Time for the real surprise. Another one." Linda laughed. "You've already given me enough to last a lifetime." "It's one special," he said seriously, his eyes warm. "It's not just from me." Emma handed Linda a small box wrapped in silver paper. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unwrapped it. Inside was a simple, golden key with a small tag attached. On the tag was written, "The studio reopened." Linda blinked, confused. "The studio?" Daniel smiled. "While you were painting yesterday, Emma and I made some calls. The owner agreed to sell the studio to us. It's yours now, Mom. You can go back any time you want." For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked at them both. "You bought it," she whispered. "Daniel, I can't let you do that. It's already done," he said gently. "It's not about money, Mom. It's about giving you back something that belongs to you. You've spent so much of your life giving to me, to Dad, to everyone. I just wanted to give something back." Linda covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back her emotions. "You don't understand what this means to me." Daniel reached for her hand. "Oh, I do. That studio was your heart, Mom. It's where you dreamed, where you loved, where you lived before life got hard. I want you to have that again." Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. "You've grown into such a good man," she whispered. He smiled softly. "I learn from the best." They all hugged, the kind of long, wordless hug that said everything that needed to be said. The room was filled with quiet, joy-no-loud laughter. No big celebration. Just warmth and love that felt real and deep. After breakfast, they packed their bags and drove one last time down the winding roads, heading back to the city. Linda sat in the back seat, holding the little golden key in her hand, staring out at the mountains fading behind them. Each mile brought memories rushing back of her husband's laughter, of painting late into the night, of holding her little boy's hand as he learned to walk. She realized that life wasn't about holding on to the past or letting it go. It was about learning how to live with it, to turn it into something beautiful again. When they reached home, Daniel insisted on taking one more detour. They drove straight to the old studio. This time, a new sign hung outside. Linda's art studio reopening soon. The sight of her name there made her heart skip a beat. She ran her fingers over the wooden sign, smiling through her tears. "You did all this?" she asked softly. Danielle nodded. "You deserve it. You've spent so much of your life helping everyone else find their dreams. Now it's your turn." She unlocked the door with the key. The smell of fresh paint and new wood greeted her. The place had been cleaned, the walls repainted, and her easel stood in the center, just waiting for her. A few of her old paintings had been restored and hung on the walls. Sunlight poured through the windows, touching every corner like a warm embrace. Linda turned to her son and daughter-in-law. "I don't even know how to thank you." "You don't have to," Emma said gently. "Just start painting again. That's all the thanks we need." Linda walked to her easel and touched it lightly. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and imagined all the colors she had once loved: the blues of the lake, the greens of the trees, the golds of sunrise. When she opened her eyes again, she smiled. "All right," she said softly. "Let's begin again." In the days that followed, Linda returned to the studio every morning. Word spread quickly through the small town that she was painting again. Old friends stopped by. People asked about her art, and for the first time in years, she felt part of something bigger. Her hands grew steady again, her creativity blooming like spring after a long winter. One afternoon, while she was cleaning her brushes, Daniel came by with a surprise of his own. "There's something you should see," he said. He took her to a small art gallery downtown. Hanging in the front window was one of her paintings, the one she'd made during the trip of the lake at sunrise. A small card beneath it read, "Peace, by Linda Thompson." Linda gasped. "How did you?" "I showed it to the gallery owner," Daniel said with a grin. "He loved it. Said your work deserves to be seen again." She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "Daniel, I don't know what to say." He hugged her. "You don't have to say anything. Just keep creating, Mom. That's what makes you alive." That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Linda stood outside the gallery watching people stop to admire her painting. Her heart felt full. She realized that her son's gift wasn't just the studio or the painting, it was hope. He had given her back her voice, her purpose, her reason to wake up each morning. When they got home, she placed the little golden key on her bedside table. It wasn't just a key anymore, it was a symbol of love, memory, and renewal. She whispered softly, "Thank you, my boy." That night, as the lights of the city flickered in the distance, Linda drifted to sleep with a smile. She had lost much in life, but she had gained something far greater. Reminder that love never truly fades. It simply changes form, waiting for the right moment to return and take your breath away once more. And that's what her son's gift had done. It hadn't just surprised her. It had given her back her heart.